Hi, I'm Scott Mansell and welcome to Driver 61's Driver Analysis, where I'll be using my 15 years of racing coaching experience to analyse one of our subscribers' laps and give them feedback about how they can be faster on circuit. Now, the idea of these videos is that I analyse data or video from one of our subscribers as I would normally during a race weekend with one of my clients. And I'm going to describe the concepts and ideas and techniques for a specific driver, but amplify them so that everybody watching can take some information and learn as I analyse the onboard footage. Now, this is a new idea for the Driver 61 channel, so please let us know if you do enjoy these videos. If you haven't submitted a video already, please click on the link in the description below and upload your video there. Now, we've got quite a big list at the moment, but I will endeavour to get through all of them. Furthermore, we are very close to 100,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel, so if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. Well, without further ado, let's get into the footage for today. The footage is from Gary Smith in a Zenos E10R at Oulton Park in the UK. He's here on a track day. So first of all, we've just got a single lap from Gary. So let's just watch the lap in its entirety first of all. And then I'll go through in detailed analysis through each corner and explain to Gary and you guys how he can be a little bit faster. So here we are into turn one. Some really nice GoPro footage here. The only thing that I don't like about the GoPro when you're looking a video like this is the way that it kind of turns as you enter a corner. It's a little bit frustrating because it seems like it should be turning the other way. There we go, it's come back. Okay, everything looking nice and smooth and under control. The Zenos isn't actually a car that I've driven, but when you're looking at data like this, it doesn't really matter. If you're looking at the steering wheel and a view of the circuit, it means that I can analyse the attitude of the car, the way the car's working, and give some feedback based on that. So through the hairpin, coming up to the next chicane. Oulton Park's a fantastic track, very difficult because it's quite narrow, but a lot of fun. Quite high speed, although this chicane's one of the slower parts on the circuit. Up the hill, over the back straight, down to the next hairpin. Into the second half of the lap now. A very polite track day driver there that we've just overtaken. You see a massive curb on the inside and a little bit of a tyre wall on the inside there. Lovely flow to this section of the circuit. Before we come up the hill, double apex right-hander coming up. Now, we do have a circuit guide on the Driver 61 website for Oulton Park, so if you really want the details, take a look at the circuit guide. And down the back straight towards Deers Leap, under the bridge. As you can see, there's a lot of gradient change here at Oulton Park. Quite an undulating circuit. Really important to get this corner right so we get the drive off, corner up Deers Leap, and over the start-finish line up ahead. Okay, so let me just rewind the video. We've already gone back there. And take a look at this corner by corner to give Gary some feedback on where he can be quicker. Now, the first thing that I noticed is that everything's very smooth and very under control, which is great. It's a nice position to start from. But if I can't see anything happening with the steering wheel, it means that we're probably below the limit, right? We're either below the limit or the car's got a fair bit of understeer in it because we're not seeing any rotation. We're not seeing any oversteer or opposite lock in the steering wheel. So the first thing will be to get the lines right, get the car stable through the corners, and then we should build up and increase pace through the corners until we find the limit. But first of all, we're just going to take a look at Gary's lines. Coming into turn one here, he's actually turned in a fraction too early. So you can see that there's some space on the outside of the car here. That means that he's tightened the corner too much. and we're not going to be taking the most efficient line through here. So my advice there would be just to kind of use your peripheral vision in this area of the corner to actually make sure that you're nice and close in the braking zone there. So bringing the car in towards the apex, you've got fairly close to the apex there. There's still a bit of room on the inside. I mean, ideally we want to be all the way on the curb on the inside here, and possibly you can see here that there's mud on the inside where people have been taken a little bit more than the curb. If you can get away with that, then that's fine. Having said that, we are on a track day. Maybe Gary doesn't want to wear his car out over the curbs. They can be quite aggressive, especially here at Oulton Park. But I still think there's still a little bit of tarmac on the inside that he could be using here. So my advice there, Gary, is to, in this area, as we're coming into the corner, make sure that your vision is here at the apex of the corner. And then as we come out the corner, decent line, using most of the road on the way out. You can see here at Oulton Park, this sensor here is connected to a camera that's just down here. And if you run over the outside of the curb, then it goes straight to the clerk of the course or whoever's in control of the track. And you will at some point get a warning or a penalty. So coming down now towards Cascades, this all looks very good. Now Cascades is really interesting. You can see here that there's a seam in the road here, and the circuit is actually cambered both ways. It falls off, it goes into off camber on the outside of this, the second half on the outside here, and then it's cambered on the inside. So actually, going into Cascades here is quite a unnatural entrance, because you need to turn it in and get inside inside the camber. You see Gary's here has turned in too late and is on the off camber on the outside of the circuit here, and it will be a struggle for him to get over that onto the inside. So there, Gary, it's difficult, but about here you want to be beginning to bring the car down across the lump in the road here and bringing it down on the inside, because the camber will help you. It's your friend. You've finally got it into the apex there, and now we're allowing the car to push out towards the outside. Down a short straight here, got a really quick left-hander coming up, which is a lot of fun. Again, it has a whole load of camber. You can see there's a seam in the road just here, so cambered on the inside, and it's pretty flat on the outside, but the inside camber will help you get around here. So you just got to be careful in this position here, because it can feel like you've got a load of grip on the inside of the corner here, but if you just push out into this area, then it kind of flattens off and it feels like you lose a bit of grip as you go over there. So if you're already on the limit on the inside and the car's kind of sliding, then when you do kind of go over the top of the seam, then it can actually reduce how much grip you've got. Braking looks good down here into the hairpin. I would get the car down into that apex as soon as possible. I know you're on a track day. I don't know whose track day it is, and I can see there's cones out on the circuit. You're kind of driving to those. In this situation, you want to bring the car down into the apex here and V the corner off a lot more than you are. This cone on the outside is a bit of a old kind of racing school line where they bring you right to the outside and then hook you back. In truth, when you're going through a hairpin, you're down on the inside for so long, you might as well get down there early and kind of take a few meters off the track. The other advantage of it is if you imagine braking as late as possible right on the outside of the track here, and you kind of misjudge it by 5 meters and you're going in too hot, you're going to just fall directly into the gravel on the outside here. Whereas if you actually bring it down to the apex here and you make a mistake and you go in a little bit hot, then you've got a bit of tarmac on the outside that you can make a mistake into. Also, if you bring it down to the inside, you get use of all of that camber coming into there. So that's a quick win for you. Get it down to the inside a lot earlier there. So you're using the camber, you're protecting yourself from a mistake. Hooking this back like you have, taking such a wide line in and then coming back. Yeah, maybe you'll get a slightly better exit coming down this next part of the circuit, but it's such a short straight that benefit is stopped right now. And so, yeah, maybe if it was a kilometre long straight, it might be worthwhile kind of hooking it back and round. I still don't think so, but it might be. But with such a short straight, it's definitely not worth hooking back around that hairpin rather than bringing it down to the apex as soon as possible. So through the chicane here, there's a bit of room on the curb here, so you've got 2 stages of curb. Important to get this first bit at least. Stay off the second part of the curb here, just because it's so aggressive, you'll jump the car across. Again, I know it's a track day, but this curb here is completely fine. It's not going to do anything to the car. The one on the inside is quite aggressive here, so if you want to protect the car a little bit, I mean, you're about on the right line here. Looking at the steering wheel, it looks like you've got a little bit of understeer. Normally you can see just that extra bit of steering angle producing some understeer. Now, it is a little bit difficult to see through video. Oversteer is very obvious because you can see the corrections coming in, but understeer is a little bit more difficult to spot because if you're turning it in, it's just got a hint of push just here. It's a little bit difficult to see, so you'll have to take a think back, Gary, and have a think about the understeer there. If it was understeering, then we need to think about how you're trail braking through this section. As we're entering, we're kind of decelerating through all of this section here, and it may be that at this point where we are in the video now, we still want to have a hint of pressure on the brake pedal. That will load the front up, it will keep the weight a little bit more on the front, push those front tyres into the track a little bit more, and give you a bit more bite, okay? So we're transferring the grip to where we want it. So your process of thought here should be, well, I'm coming into the apex here, the front's limiting me. If I wanted to go quicker, the front would just push on like this. So what can I do to give the front more grip? Well, if I want to have more grip on the front, I need to have some more weight on the front, and to do that, I need to decelerate a little bit more, brake with a little bit more pressure here, a little bit more pressure, not a lot, to give that front a little bit more bite. That way, you'll generate more grip and you'll be able to go through this section of track quicker. Decent exit here. If we're really pushing the limits, we should be letting the car run free through here, picking up the throttle and running right up against this white line. And if you can get away with it, you can see there's grass crating on the outside of the corner here. That's there because everybody runs on the grass. So if you've got an eagle-eyed marshal in one of these posts, you might not get away with it for very long, but there can be an extra half a tenth that you can find there. And then you actually end up going over the start of this curb here, which can be a little bit lumpy, but most cars will accept going over that curb. Really helps getting good exit out of there because you're coming uphill, and then we've got a bit of a straight here. So coming down here is one of the biggest stops on the circuit. We should be thinking about our braking point in our peripheral vision and then edging ourselves forward. This is one of the rare points at Oulton Park where you can safely push the limits because if you kind of lock up or you brake too late, you can just carry straight on. You can just see down here that there's runoff to go straight on. So I would test the kind of braking capability of your car here at Oulton Park, and that's something that I'll proactively be thinking about before the session. I know here that I can actually begin to feel how well this car can brake by picking a point. So for example, this 100-meter board, braking there, and if everything slows down and nothing locks up and I get through the corner okay, then I'm going to go 5 meters later, the next lap. The idea here is that you proactively move yourself forwards, and that way you'll find the limit within 5-6 laps or so, maybe even quicker. So coming down into the second chicane here, again we've got this kind of two-stage curbing here. You want to take the first bit. The second bit is a little bit too lumpy. Coming through the second step, all looks good. However, here I would say you're running a little bit too deep over to the right-hand side, a little bit too much of this space. So what I would do is restrict the previous right-hander, restrict the left here, so that we end up kind of a little bit a car's width away from the white line here, because that means that we can actually carry, we've got a little bit less work to do through this right hand. And you can see that in your effort to get it back over to the left and then now into the right, it hasn't accepted that steering input, and we've missed the apex on the right hand side. That in turn is going to affect your speed all the way up here, and even though it's a curve, it's actually a straight because we're not lifting anywhere. Coming into Druids is one of the areas on the previous lap that I saw you kind of losing probably the most time. So we want to have the car in a straight line here. Okay, so we kind of enter this section, positioning the car so we've got it in a straight line while we're on the brakes, running down here. Really important, and I can't see your helmet so I don't exactly know where you're looking, but really important that you try to pick up, you can just see it here, just pick up the curb on the inside and bring it into the curb much more than you are. Again, you're kind of being shown the wrong line by this cone on the outside. This is your turn-in cone, which is completely wrong. The problem with these turning cones, I hate them in total. They're not good using turning cones, because if you're looking at this as a marker to turn the car into the corner, you're not looking at the inside of the corner, you're not looking where you need to be going. So what ends up happening is people drive up to the cone and then turn the car really hard, but they don't exactly know where they're going, and so the line is very inconsistent. What you'd be much better off doing is ignoring that completely, trying to pick up this apex or the curb as much as possible. Now, some cars you'll want to get pretty close to the curb, other cars you might be half a car's width away from the curb. However, in every car you want to be a lot closer to the inside than you are in this position. I know you're driving to the cones here, but ignore those. Then through the mid part of the corner, you're about in the right position actually, and then we're hooking up on this curb on the way out. Now you've got to be really careful on the exit here, because it looks very deceiving. It's easy to come out of here too early and not see that the circuit kind of continues to turn after the crest. You know, you can't see it here, so it's quite difficult to see. And we're probably a little bit high with this camera angle than you would be sat down in the car. And what can happen with a lot of drivers is they'll come out too early to the outside. They'll realise now that they're running out of road. You know, if this car was another half a car's width to the outside, they'd know that they're running out of road. They lift, have to turn the car some more. That, in combination with the car going over the crest, means that the rear becomes very light, and loads of drivers end up in the barrier on the right hand side here. So that is definitely, Druids is definitely a corner where you need to build up your speed so that you kind of have a natural feeling for how the car is going to end up being positioned on the exit. So coming down the back straight here, obviously Druids is very important because we want to get the run all the way down here. Again, we can play with the braking point here. The main idea though is to pick a conscious braking point. Okay, pick your conscious braking point and then play with it. So many drivers just brake based on feel, and that can be okay, and generally in faster corners it's okay because you're not decelerating as much. But in the big stops, in the corners where you're slowing the car down quite a lot, we need to pick a specific point and work that forwards until we find the limit. So your vision should be down at the apex now, over here. We are missing that apex somewhat, so there's a load of space on the inside of the corner here. Now, you can see here that there's grass crating on the inside, and the apex cone by the track day organisers is all the way around here. So this is interesting that the apexes and the turning points that the track day organisers put out are really late, and it's because they're trying to protect track day drivers away from coming out of the corner too early and then having to lift because they're running out of road and crashing on the inside barrier. However, I mean, your line and your standard looks good, so I think you should ignore these cones and actually look for these markers around the circuit that are more commonly used in testing and racing, because you'll find a load of time there. Anyway, you've missed the apex here, so I would say to you, you need to get your vision across to this apex much earlier, and then you'll find that the car comes in a lot more. The exit's decent. You're not using all the road there, so there's a bit, you're leaving a bit of safety margin there, but that's completely fine. And that's the end of the lap. So, Gary, my advice to you is first of all, work on your vision so that we're hooking up all of those spots. So as we're entering the corner, we should be looking at the apex. Before we get to the apex, we should be looking at the exit. Spend a couple of sessions just actually working on that and trying to get your eyes to work in the right way. During my masterclass course where we teach this and train it through repetition without any distractions on track, we take the time for me to consciously tell the drivers where to look and get their rhythm with their vision. And I find once the brain understands that when the vision's in the right place, you get more information from the circuit, and it just makes the job of driving around the circuit much easier. You'll feel this kind of level of confidence because you understand and you can process what's coming at you a lot better. And instantly, your times will go a lot faster, and you'll feel much more confident in the car. Once you've got that sorted and you can put together 5 or 6 laps where you're consistent and you're on the right pieces of track, then it's time to actually try and find the limit in your car. I didn't see you kind of go over the limit at all. Perhaps there's a little bit of understeer there. I'm not sure. Like I said, it's difficult to see in the video footage. But I would like to see the car working a little bit more. For sure, you're leaving some time on the table there. So the way to do this is to pick the corners properly. Pick the safest corner properly to try and find the limit. We don't want to be doing this in Cascades because it's a quick left-hander with the camber as you come out. You want to try and find the limit in the previous corner, probably. It's a medium, slow-speed corner. There's a little bit of run-up on the outside. I mean, if you're trying to begin to find the limit in your car, Oulton Park probably isn't the right circuit to do it because the barriers are close, it's a quick corner, there's cambers, so the grip's constantly changing, it's very narrow and there's not much runoff, right? So it isn't the right place to do it. And that's why I run the masterclass training program that I do, because we take it away from normal race circuits and find the limit with repetition and in a way where you're not distracted, which really kind of amplifies and ramps up the learning that drivers have. And my final piece of advice is, if you do think that the car had understeer on this day and you felt like it wasn't turning how you wanted it to, I would consider changing the rake, the ride height at the rear. So if the car's platform is like this and the car's kind of understeering through the corner, if you increase the rear ride height, it then naturally transfers more weight to the front of the car, moves the balance from the rear to the front, and it might make that front a little bit more, or it will make the front a little bit more grippy, a little bit more pointy, and make the car better balanced for you. Therefore, it generates more grip, and you'll go through each corner quicker and reduce your lap time. Well, that's it for this driver analysis video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please like the video and subscribe to the Driver 61 channel. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.